Hi everyone. So today I wanted to talk about the fact that no relationship is random and that there are relationships that are going to come into your life and they are going to trigger the hell out of you. And everything depends on how you are going to approach that trigger. So you can approach it in a way where you completely separate yourself from the other and say, they're the bad ones. They're, I don't know, judgmental. They're unhinged. They're this, they're that. And what will happen is that kind of energy is going to come up over and over again in your life and is going to bother the hell out of you. Or you can do the opposite, which is that you start realizing, okay, no relationship is random. Every relationship around me that comes to me and that triggers me is actually showing me something about myself. And I am going to take responsibility for that. I'm going to go towards it and take it in and see what it's showing me. Excuse me. Now, this is, easier said than done because it's not something that we do. It's not something that is normalized. It's not a norm, right? Because, the norm is usually they're bad and I'm, good. But so that's why I wanted to make this video to inspire you to do that. So I'll tell you a story. That's something that happened to me, which was really amazing. So I had this person in my life, these people actually in my life that pissed me off because every time I would be with them, I would love being with them. I mean, it's not like their whole nature pissed me off or anything. I loved being with them. I went towards them, etc. But there was that one behavior that would just annoy me. And at first, and you will see that that's what happens when you're not aware of it, that behavior almost becomes the whole person, right? And or you'll find yourself very baffled at times because you'll go towards them, you'll want to go towards them, and there's that moment you get triggered and you're like, why am I coming back here? Why do I have them in my life? And you want to cut them off, but you can't because you're attracted to them, so you go back. And so this becomes this very confusing moment, very confusing and painful moment in your life. And when that happens, it's really about you going back and start realizing, becoming aware, when is it that I get triggered? What kind of behavior is triggering me? And that's very important because it's not the whole person. There is something they are showing you that is bringing up something inside of you, an information, some wisdom, a part of you that you haven't integrated, that you don't know. And so you're confused. It's normal. You're not aware. You don't know what is happening. So it's okay to be confused. It's okay to be baffled by all that. So I remember that I started really becoming more aware of the moments where that reactivity or that trigger would come up. And I realized that what was triggering me was that these people were very religious. And they were religious and they spoke about faith, walking on water and all that. And yet they weren't walking the talk. It was the typical thing where, you see people, religious people going to church from, on Sunday from 10 to 11 or whatever. And, they talk about this God that they believe in him and all that. And then they come out and everything is fine. They look all nice and all. and they come out of church, and then they start complaining about life, about what victims they are, how hard it is, how everything is horrible. And it always baffled me, because it was like, okay, so that you believe in God, and suddenly you're a victim. I mean, what is this about? If you have faith, I mean, I would think that God would help you. I mean, that would make you feel safe in this world, right? But and and this was coming up in me, and I saw it in them, that they were saying, be faithful, like God is there for you, etc. And at the same time, they were like, we have to hustle, we have to grind, we have to force ourselves into doing things we don't want to do. Life is hard, life is against us. And it was like, what the hell? And why was that triggering me? It was triggering me because it was showing my own hypocrisy. That I had gotten to a place in my life where I was talking about spirituality, and I was, into manifestation and all that, into conscious creation and all that. But I wasn't really walking the talk, in the sense that there were a lot of parts of me that did not believe in what I was saying. And so that was, and that was what was being shown to me in that moment. And it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, like, imagine this. You don't have to do anything. You're just sitting there, and, these wisdoms are brought to you. And the only thing you have to do is you have to feel into it, and then you understand it. And it's really beautiful, because that was the first thing that was showing me how safe I am, how I'm taken care of in that universe, that I'm always going to be the relationship that I have with the universe, or with my higher self, if you wish, however you call it, with that part of me that I still don't know that well, but I'm getting to know, I'm integrating it. That the relationship is that it's always going to push me into a better version of me. It's always going to push me to feel much better. It's always going to push me to integrate myself, to explore myself, to be better with myself, right? Which was an amazing thing to find out. And I'm going on a tangent here, but it's so important to know that you have that moment when you're like, oh my God, this is triggering me. I feel annoyed and it doesn't feel good. And then you go into it and you're like, wow, it's just amazing. And I just needed to add that. So I went on a tangent, but let me go back. So I find myself, and I'm like, okay. So what I am telling myself in this moment is that I need to really implement the wisdom that I have more. This is not enough for me. I need to really know that manifestation actually works, because that was the question that I was bringing up. It's almost like many times in spirituality, we like listening to all these audios, videos, and to spiritual teachers, but then we're so scared to go into the grit, I guess that's how you call it. We're afraid of testing it, because there's such a big part of us that thinks, oh my God, we're actually powerless. This is just woo-woo. This is just fluff. This is just a dream I'll never have, right? And maybe if you're hearing this, it's time to start testing, to start to see whether it's actually working or not. It's because maybe it's not enough just to dream about it. Maybe that fluff is not as satisfactory as it was until now. So at least for me, that was what was coming up. And the question that was coming up for me in that moment was, you know, the question is whether manifestation works. If you go deeper, it's like, can I actually create the life that I want? And if you go deeper, you'll realize that what you're asking is, can I actually be who I am in this world and be okay and be safe? That's the real question that we're asking, if we're really honest with ourselves. So I did ask myself that question. And I remember that I found myself in a situation, and here's the story. I found myself in a situation where I was in a country, and I had a visa to live in that country, so I could be for 6 months there, and then I had to go out because the visa would expire. I had to be in another country for a little while and then come back again and restart my 6 months, right? And I knew that my visa was almost expiring. I had, I think, 8 days left before it did expire. And I had to go out again. I had to go out of the country. Now, let me tell you something about myself. I am one of the most impractical people you'll ever meet in this world. There's no level of practicality in me. I mean, literally, I'm not good at organizing, at, this logistics and all that. And I mean, that is magic to me, I mean, it's really, I'm not practical, that's it. I'm someone who's really, I'm thrilled to go inside. The inner world is something I feel very, relatively, let's say, comfortable in. But the outer world is more difficult. I mean, that's magic for me. And some people are very good at being in the outer world, right? In the external world. And incredibly, that's the people that I have around me. People who are very practical, they're organized, they're very structured, they're very masculine. Those are the people around me, and I'm completely the opposite. So in this case, I had to be practical, right? Because otherwise, I mean, I would get into trouble with the authorities in the country. I mean, I could, they would throw me out of there, and there were consequences. And so going back to what I was saying is, what we think usually is that here is a problem, here is a solution, right? And I have to change to get, in this moment for me, I had to change. I had to become practical, right? So I couldn't just be myself in that moment. I couldn't be me. I couldn't be the impractical me and somehow, get to the solution. But I had to force myself. I have to change myself. I have to force myself into doing certain things, because otherwise it won't do. Otherwise I'll be in trouble. So this is the way we usually think. So there's this powerlessness where I just can't be me, right? I have to chop parts of me, I have to stretch parts of me, and so on and so forth. And so I'm sitting there, it's a Monday, I remember, I'm sitting there and I'm trying to find a practical solution, and my whole energy is over there playing cards, and we're not engaging in this because we've no clue how to do it. We do not want to engage. That's what my whole energy is telling me. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And so in that moment, that was the defining moment, because that was the moment where can I actually be completely myself, be completely impractical, and get to where I need to get, and be fine in this world and be safe in this world. So I remember, what did I do? I went inside. I started meditating, because that's where I'm good at. That's easier for me to go inside, right? So I did. And so I went inside and I started asking myself the question, what is it that I really want in this moment? What is my desire? Instead of, you know, focusing on the unwanted, which is, oh my God, I'm not practical. I have to do this, I have to do that. And, you know, all this stress is coming up. That's the unwanted. Now I'm trying to find a solution, and I am actually completely minimizing myself. I'm judging myself, right? Because I'm not practical and all that. So do you see how this doesn't feel good? So instead of focusing there, because if I focus there, I mean, that's where I'm going to go, and it's going to be hell on earth, right? Instead of focusing on that, I really went into what is it that I want. I mean, if I were completely safe in this world and I could be completely myself and it was all nice here, how would I want it to be? So it's about focusing on the wanted, right? So I went inside and I started, and I really just relaxed, and this dream came up, this visual came up for me. And the visual was Friday, I find myself going into a bus, the minibus or something like that, going into that, and everything is organized, everything is done. There is a person that is very practical and organized, has done everything, and I just need to put my butt into the bus, and that's it. So this came up, right? And this came up, and it came from the inside. It's not, and this is very important, it's not that I came up with the idea. It's not my mind that came up with it, but it's just something that just came from inside and showed up, right? And it's just an amazing feeling that I had, a feeling of freedom, of openness, of expansion, right? And that's a desire, right? For me, when that happens, it means that it's really your soul that is wanting that. And if that's the case, why shouldn't you get it? It's an experience that your soul wants to go through, right? So that's what came up, and I felt very good. And then I think during that day, some doubts came up, you know, like, I don't remember exactly, but yeah, I think some doubts came up, but I don't remember but they weren't very strong, let's say. I had my doubts, but they weren't very strong, or I didn't see them that strongly. And so I left it there, and the next day, this was Monday, the next day is Tuesday, right? The next day, I find myself in a situation where I'm with a couple of friends of mine, and they're asking me, because they know that I have to leave the country, and so they're asking me how I'm organizing things, because, you know, that's the usual thing to do, right? You organize things. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, ugh. And I'm asking the person whether they've been doing that, whether they know where I could find a bus, how I could organize myself. So let me just pause it there. In that moment, what I was doing was that I was going against my energy, and I was going into my limiting beliefs. I was going into, oh my God, I can't have it this way, and into that shame, etc., etc. So I'm going from that perspective, right? And when I asked that question, because I was coming from that perspective, the answer that I got was, but it's so easy. Just Google it. And when I heard that, it was like a punch in the gut. So in that moment, I acknowledged the punch in the gut. And I was like, okay, I need to look into this, because it was very strong. And the moment I came out, I couldn't do it in that moment because it was very strong. I acknowledged it. That's already incredible, because that means that you're aware of what is happening in the moment. You're not repressing it, you're letting it be. But what happened is that after the meeting, after the little thing we had there, I went home, and as I was going home, I started going into the punch, right? The way it felt, which is a trigger. So I went into that and I started feeling into it, and I started telling myself, okay, I am here with you. And I realized, I started becoming aware of what was happening, which was I felt ashamed for being impractical. There were all these thoughts that started coming up. You're being spoiled. You think that other people should be doing things for you, and you're just there, getting things, and you're just this spoiled princess. And all these thoughts were coming up. And I became aware of them, and I started really taking them in, and taking in all the sensations, all the shame that I was feeling. Because let me just tell you something here. When a desire comes up, it means that it means that that desire is for you. But if it's in the state of desire, let's say, it means that you're not open to having that desire in your life. And so what happens is that the desire comes up, and then from that moment until the actual physical manifestation happens, all the doubts, all your limiting beliefs will come up. They'll be in your face. So you will have, and again, there's no random relationship. Every relationship is there for a very specific reason. That friend of mine that came in that moment and said, you just have to Google it, that was me. That was a very concrete part of me coming up, showing itself, and showing me all the limitations that I had in myself. And I had the choice in that moment to take it as, okay, so yeah, if I got triggered, it's because that person is showing me something about me, and then I can either run away from it, but it's still me, it's still a part of me. So I'm running away from a part of me. It's like you're running away from a limb of yours, and you will suffer a lot. Or you can take it completely in and start understanding it. And so I started becoming aware of my thoughts, of my limiting beliefs, of the way I was feeling about myself, the fact that I was ashamed of being impractical. I thought I had to correct myself. I thought I couldn't be safe in this universe with that. I thought that, what I had was not enough. That the fact that I could work on limiting beliefs and do that inner work, that was not enough for me, right? That was not enough to be safe. So I was not safe in this universe. That was what was coming up, and it came very strongly, and it took me. And I remember I was with that part, with the fearful part. I was feeling into it and writing down things, and until I did that, until there was a relaxation, there was a relief, which means that part just became part of me, right? I just integrated it, and I became that much more expanded. And again, that's what happens when you have a desire. All the limiting beliefs will come up, all the fears will come up, and so it's very normal, and it's up to you to decide what you're going to do with them. Are you going to take them in and use them as a stepping stone to your manifestation, or are you going to get rid of them? Try to get rid of them. You'll not get rid of them, and then that manifestation will never happen. Or if it does, it's going to come for a while and it will go away, because all these limitations are holding you from it, right? And so there were other things that came up. I mean, it's a long video, so there are other things that came up. But this was the biggest one, right? And it was just amazing after that how I felt good. I felt so good. I felt relief. And I felt that I was closer and closer to myself, that I was, creating this incredible relationship with myself. And as I started becoming safe in me, I started accepting myself as I am. It's almost like I forgot about the manifestation, or I forgot about it. And I was like, there were moments where I was like, ooh, what am I going to do? Because time is passing by. But then again, there's that feeling of, we're fine. I don't know why, but we're fine. And I didn't even see that there was anything fine. I remember the next day, and the next day was Wednesday, right? So the next day, I remember in the morning I woke up and I got this message from a friend of mine. But I wasn't feeling good. There was something else that came up. And it was also linked with this manifestation, even though in the moment I didn't know. But I was just being triggered, right? And I was sitting and I was taking in that trigger. I was, taking it in. And as I saw that message, I did not want to answer, because I was like, I'm triggered. If I answer, I'm not going to be fine. And so I didn't answer, and I was working on the trigger. And when I stopped and I felt relief, I found myself wanting to, read that message. I took that message, I read it. And it was incredible, because this friend of mine was asking me whether I was out of the country, because she thought I was out of the country, because there's, I think, a few days only remaining. And so I called her and I said, no, I'm still here. And she said, you know what, then that's great, because if you haven't left, then you know what, there's this friend of mine that had to go out of the country for a few days, and she had organized the whole trip, paid for the hotel and everything, but she can't go, and it's really last minute, and it's a trip for 2 people, and I want to go in her stead, And she said, it's all paid for, it's all done. It's for free, all organized. I just need someone to go with, because otherwise I will not go alone. I don't want to go alone on this trip. So if you come and you are on top of my list, if you come with me, that would be great, because I can go, and then you can go, do your thing. Have your visa renewed, and it's good for you, and it's all actually organized and for free. So I hear that. And I remember I was talking on WhatsApp with this friend of mine, and I remember seeing something red appearing on that WhatsApp, and it was my face, because I became all red, because this incredible thing happened, right? It was a very fast manifestation that happened. It was from Monday to Wednesday, right? That was very fast. And it was for Friday, by the way. The trip was on Friday. Everything organized. Nothing to do. The hotel, the bus, even the call. I was even called to go there. Like, there is nothing I had to do. Can you imagine that? I was like, it took me some time to get back to myself from that. But what I'm trying to tell you is, with this story, is that ask yourself, when we ask ourselves, is this manifestation working? What we're asking ourselves is, can I be safe in this universe? Am I actually creating everything in this life? Because if I am, then it means that I'm actually safe to be here. I can create it in a way that is based on who I am and not who I should be, right? And if this is a question that you should ask yourself, and you should test it and test it and see how it comes up. Test it test it and see whether you're actually safe. And start using every relationship that you have, every trigger that you have, as something that is beneficial for you. When a trigger comes up, when there is a relationship thing, trigger that is coming up, it's not random. It's there for you. If you look at it, you will see that every person is holding a piece of you that if you go into it, if you curiously go towards it, take it in, that piece of you will make you that much bigger. That piece of you will make you feel that much safer in this world. That piece of you will help you have an incredible relationship with yourself, a relationship based on love, on trust, and of taking in every part of you, of making every part of you feel safe. So I hope this was clear. It's quite a long video, so I don't know, let's see. If you have any questions, any comments, let me know down below. Ciao, ciao.